$1 from 1971 buys about 12 cents of stuff today. Same bill, same face, 88% of its power is just gone. Nobody stole it, nobody hacked your bank. That's just what money does, quietly, every single year. Here's the sneaky part. Your money isn't robbed, it's melted. Leave cash sitting in a drawer or under a mattress and inflation quietly licks away at it every year, like an ice cube on a summer sidewalk. You didn't spend a cent, you're still poorer. Here's the receipt. The Consumer Price Index, basically a giant price tag on everyday life, sat around 40 in 1971. Today it's over 335. That's not a typo, that's 8 decades of prices quietly climbing a staircase nobody remembers building. Let's make it tastier. A Big Mac cost about 85 cents in 1974. That same burger, same 2 patties, same special sauce, runs about $6.12 today. The beef didn't get fancier. The dollar just got smaller. So how do economists even measure this? They build a basket. A real shopping list of stuff people actually buy: milk, rent, gas, a haircut, then track its total price every month. That basket getting more expensive, over and over, is literally the definition of inflation. The simplest explanation economists love: too much money chasing too few things. Print more dollars without printing more bread, and dollars get less special. It's the same reason a rare trading card gets less rare the second someone photocopies 10,000 of them. And someone actually controls that printer, the Federal Reserve. In emergencies it can create brand new money out of thin air to keep the economy from freezing up. Useful in a crisis. Also the exact reason your grocery bill occasionally feels personally targeted. During COVID, that printer went into overdrive. The money supply grew 27% in a single year, the fastest jump on record, bigger than the 2008 crisis, bigger than World War II. About 6.4 trillion new dollars landed in the economy. Put a number on that flood: roughly $6.4 trillion was added to the U.S. money supply between 2020 and 2022. That's not a typo either. It's also, conveniently, right around when your grocery receipts started looking like phone numbers. Stack that new money in $100 bills and the pile would climb well past airplane cruising altitude, headed for space. That is an enormous amount of freshly created cash, all chasing the exact same number of houses, burgers, and concert tickets as before. So the equation gets lopsided fast. Way more dollars in circulation. The same number of goods on the shelf. Something has to give, and it's never the shelf. It's always the price tag, quietly creeping upward while nobody's watching the seesaw tip. Economists call this flavor demand pull inflation. Everyone's got jobs, everyone's spending, everyone wants the same limited stuff at once. The economy basically overheats, like a couch left too close to the fireplace. Cozy for a minute. Then it starts quietly smoking. Flavor 2 is cost push. A war, an oil embargo, a pandemic jammed shipping port, anything that makes stuff harder to produce. The storm cloud rolls in oversupply, prices rise to match the shortage, and this time it's not greed. It's just bad weather, economically speaking. We watched both flavors hit at once in 2022. Prices jumped 9.1% in a single year, the worst in 4 decades. Energy costs alone rocketed 41%, gas 60%, groceries jumped double digits. Everyone felt that one at the pump. Gas prices especially love a roller coaster. An oil embargo in the 70s, a war in the 2020s, same ride, different decade. Every spike at the pump ripples into trucking, groceries, plane tickets, basically everything that ever touches a road. Buckle up. Prices rise, so workers understandably ask for raises. Businesses pay those raises by raising prices again, so workers ask for more. Round and round it goes, a snowball everyone keeps pushing because stopping first feels like losing. That's the wage price spiral. Here's the honest twist: nobody in this story is the villain. Workers just want to afford groceries. Businesses just want to cover costs. Every handshake in that chain is reasonable on its own. It's the whole chain, moving together, that quietly pushes prices up for everyone. Quick recap before we move on. Demand pull is too much money chasing too little stuff. Cost push is a shock making stuff harder to get. And the money supply flood is really just demand pull's biggest possible steroid. Same result every time, your dollar buys a little less. So why doesn't the Fed just aim for 0% inflation and call it a day? Because the actual target is 2%, on purpose, every year, forever. Yes, the people in charge of prices are deliberately choosing to let your money lose a little value. Why not 0? Because 0 is dangerously close to negative, and negative prices, deflation, are worse than they sound. 2% acts like an anchor, predictable enough that businesses invest and people borrow, without drifting into the scarier waters just on the other side of 0. Want to see the scarier waters? Japan spent roughly 1999 to 2012 with flat or falling prices. Sounds nice until you learn the economy barely grew, wages froze, and companies stopped investing because why build anything when everything gets cheaper if you just wait? So which is worse, prices creeping up or prices creeping down? Mild inflation nudges people to spend and invest today. Deflation quietly convinces everyone to wait, and an economy where everyone waits is an economy that stalls. The seesaw tips toward inflation being the lesser evil. Picture the economy as a balloon. Mild inflation keeps it gently, steadily full. Deflation lets air hiss out slowly, or worse, so fast the whole thing collapses. The Fed would honestly rather manage a balloon that's a little too full than one that's sadly, permanently deflated. Now let's see what happens when a country ignores all of this. Zimbabwe, November 2008, prices rose 79.6 billion% in a single month. Not a year. A month. Prices were doubling every 24 hours. That's inflation with the safety rails removed. Zimbabweans famously carried cash in wheelbarrows and grocery baskets, not because they were rich, but because the bills were worth so little you needed bulk just to buy bread. Imagine needing a basket, not a wallet, to pay for lunch. That's currency trust hitting absolute zero. Zimbabwe's central bank eventually printed an actual $100 trillion note. The largest denomination any government has ever legally issued. On release day it was worth about $30. Weeks later, it couldn't buy a bus ticket. Now it's a collector's item. The recipe for that kind of collapse is short. Print money to cover spending instead of raising it honestly. Keep printing when people stop trusting the currency. Watch prices spiral because nobody wants to hold cash a second longer than they have to. America is nowhere close. Back to normal-sized inflation and who it actually helps. If you owe money at a fixed rate, inflation quietly shrinks your real debt over time, you're paying it back in cheaper dollars. If you're just sitting on cash savings, inflation is doing the exact same shrinking. For regular paychecks, it feels like a treadmill. Wages go up sometimes, prices go up basically always, and you're sprinting just to stay in the exact same spot. The finish line for wages is real. It just keeps getting shoved a little further away every year. Here's the sharpest example. The U.S. federal minimum wage has been stuck at $7.25 since 2009. Adjusted for inflation, that's really worth about $5.10 in today's money. Same number on the paycheck. Genuinely less lunch money every single year since. Same trap catches fixed-rate savers. A bond or savings account locked at a nice steady interest rate feels safe, right up until inflation quietly outpaces it. You didn't lose the gift. You just unwrap it years later and it buys noticeably less than it used to. So what actually beats it? Stocks, historically, have returned about 10% a year before inflation, roughly 6 to 7% after. Plain cash sitting in a drawer loses 2 to 3% of its power every single year. Same starting dollar, wildly different ending. Think of prices as a staircase that never stops climbing. Cash just stands at the bottom, watching. Investing means climbing your own staircase alongside it, hopefully a little faster, so your money still buys close to what it used to. So practically, what do you actually do about all this? Own things that tend to rise with prices, stocks, real estate, your own skills. Avoid parking large amounts of cash for years. And negotiate your paycheck like inflation is a silent opponent, because honestly, it is. Picture your paycheck as a slice of pie representing everything you can buy. Inflation doesn't take a bite out of the slice, it just makes the whole pie bigger while your piece stays the same size. Protecting your slice means making sure it grows. Quick thought experiment to close the loop. Stuff $1,000 under your mattress back in 1971 and forget about it. Today it would buy you what about $120 buys now. Inflation didn't ask permission. It just quietly, patiently, did its job. One more number to sit with. At today's inflation rate, around 4%, prices roughly double every 17 years or so. That means a $5 coffee now is a $10 coffee within a couple of decades, just from prices doing what prices always do. So here's the picture to keep in your head. Cash in a drawer is a block of ice on a warm counter, still there, still recognizable, just quietly, steadily shrinking. The goal was never to avoid the sun. It's just to stop leaving your ice outside. So, 3 things worth remembering. Inflation isn't a glitch, it's mild and intentional, aimed at about 2% a year. Hoarding cash quietly loses to it every single time. And the actual fix isn't panic, it's just making your money do something instead of nothing. Money doesn't lose value by accident. It's baked in, on purpose, every single year, so the economy keeps moving instead of freezing solid. You can't stop the melt. You can just stop leaving your cash out in the sun. The hedgehog invests. You probably should too.